in a cabin. Hi.
Hi. I
I'm
am
very nice.
exceedingly excited to see you right now. I was very much running out of material, so
I was trying to quickly text you, and I'm so sorry. We just
no.
came off the glacier, and it was we went as fast as we could. I know it's not often I can say I just came off the glacier.
I know. I actually I revealed that. I put that out there here for the live stream for those we're real time, we're going live. I'm like, she's coming off of a glacier. So I think we can all be patient for a few minutes because she's exiting the glacier so she can be with us. So thank you. Why were you on a glacier?
I think the question is why not? But why we were on the glacier, we were out there enjoying it. I was out there actually dancing. It's amazing. I happened to come to Alaska, not even happened to come to Alaska. I was invited to come to Alaska. And to be with our dog who loves it up here. This is his world. And so I have been out exploring every day for a week, and I have another week here to go.
Wow.
Have you ever been to Alaska? It's amazing.
No. And I've also never heard of anyone who happened to be in Alaska. You have to have a lot of intention to get to Alaska. So
it was a bit of work. It was a couple airplanes and a long van, especially where we are right now. So it's been an extraordinary adventure. Just one of those life-changing things. I can tell you all about it, but I know you have questions to ask. But
hey, look, I mean, this is something, just one of those things that makes you such a unique person that was just randomly on what is today, a Tuesday?
I don't know. It's Alaska time. I'm not sure there is time up here.
That's a good thing.
Really, it's magic time. Yes, because even last night we were up very late because I got Jason, as you know, called me like, come outside. And we saw the Northern Lights. And I had seen a little bit of Northern Lights before, but last night he said in his 15 years up here, he'd never seen such an extraordinary show of lights. It was not just on the straight horizon in front of us. We were in the middle of like 360 degrees of Northern Lights, as well as up above us. It was like the eye of the storm of the aurora. It was incredible.
Unbelievable. Well, let me introduce you because
yes.
you so for those of you tuning in and maybe didn't catch all the promos and everything we are putting out to get you all here, we are here with certainly one of our favorites, one of your favorites as well, Jane Sibbett. You know her from Friends, as Carol, who was Ross's ex-wife on the show. Yes, first. On the other end of the sitcom spectrum, which I live on both ends of the sitcom spectrum, I also equally know and love you from the somewhat less prominent but equally beloved to those who know it, Herman's Head from early on in the Fox sitcom history.
Yeah, one of the first Fox sitcoms, second sitcom, I think, on Fox, right?
It was right there in the beginning, and so many other things, which we're going to hit on some of them here today. So, thank you again for getting. Do you climb off the glacier? Are you in a vehicle? Like, I've never seen a glacier up close.
Well, we were on the glacial field, so yes. I guess we didn't snowshoe off today. The last week I've been snowshoeing off of it, but today it was a little packed down. So we hiked off of it, and then we got in a van to come here back to the cabin. So that's how this one did it today. Yesterday we snowshoed through, like, there's ice caves and there's ice climbs, and it's just another world. It really is like going to another planet. It's extraordinary. I highly recommend it. Life-changing. So
we got you in a good mood, but you always are in a good mood, but this is kind of next level. So I think we're going to have some fun. Those of you checking us out now, again, like we said, this is our first live show. So excited for you to be here, Jane. We're working on some technology questions and answers. Perhaps we're going to get the answers maybe at the end of this show. We're attempting to stream live through both YouTube and Facebook. We know Facebook is all good. Not sure how it's coming through on our YouTube channel right now. So if you guys are trying and not doing so well, then you're probably not hearing me. But those of you who are, wherever you may be, checking out the show, You can send us your comments, posts, do whatever you need to do, and it should come through to us. So hopefully we'll be able to see some of that feedback. But we have lots of questions and topics and things that you guys have supplied ahead of time too. So we're going to focus on that, and then we'll see what materializes here. Jane, we've done this before. We're trying to go deeper. We're going to try and get really creative with some of the things that we're going to hit you up with today. Are you ready?
Ready to go. I'm ready to go deep. And I can always say, maybe not.
That's what I was doing for 10 minutes before you showed up.
So sorry. I'm so
sorry.
Does it sound okay? Just want to make sure, because we didn't do sound.
You do. You know, I was going to say, you're in Alaska, you're on a glacier, and your Wi-Fi is apparently better than mine. So you're in a good situation.
It was a little dicey last night. We weren't sure we were going to have it. Yeah. Anyway, we're here now. We got it.
I'm glad it's working out. So again, we had people, suggest topics and questions about Friends and everything beyond, but I kind of want to go even back further than Friends first, because this is something I don't know that we've ever specifically talked about, which is that much earlier in your career, you were a soap opera star, which
was
such a major part of your career, but people don't really think of you in that vein. But you did over 100 episodes of Santa Barbara, right?
I didn't even count them. Is that how many I did?
Yeah.
Wow. I guess I did. I wouldn't call myself a soap opera star because I was only there for a year and a half, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But, I loved it. I would have stayed there forever had they not decided that my storyline wasn't really working out very well. I loved it. I loved it because I had a couple guest stars, I think, before I did this. But what I loved about it was the work ethic. You had to go in there and you had to learn massive amounts of dialogue. Yeah. And my first day, did you want to ask me a question? Because I want to tell you about my first day if you want to hear it.
No, I want to hear about it. What I was going to actually ask you is something like that, when you go through that where you have to learn so much per day, does that make everything else kind of easier afterwards?
It was, like I said, it was the greatest training ground. And when I got there, I really had very, very little experience. And I remember the director screaming through the PA, because the directors on a soap opera are generally in the booth. And they're like, screaming at her, like, tell that new actress to find her, camera, find her light, and like yelling at me. Right. And I'm looking at the person I'm working with, like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do, because I had never worked on a 3-camera show before, and we moved so fast. And Nicholas Coster, who played my would-be dad at some point, just said, "I got you. I'll take care of you." And he was great. So you learn really fast. Like, you got to hit your marks. You got to find you got to find all your beats really fast. It was the greatest training ground. I would highly recommend it for everyone. It's like even better than a rep theater because you're moving so fast. It's like a whole new play every day, right? Sometimes it's 40 pages of dialogue if you have a huge storyline, if you're a B or C person like I was. Because do you know what I played? I played Roxanne and Jane, and Bitch by Day, Slut by Night. So one of those awesome dual characters is it okay for me to say those words? Did you have to?
Sure.
Okay. But yeah, Jane was hardcore bitch to start, of course. You had to find out her own other identity was that she was also Roxanne. And Santa Barbara was unique in that it was also, I don't know if it was after the first year, but they became the #1 nighttime show in France.
Oh,
so it was up there with Dallas and Dynasty. It had a whole kind of special life. It was really great actors, really wonderful.
What was the creative direction, if you don't mind me asking, that kind of turned you away from doing the show?
The creative direction was that I was released from my contract.
Oh,
let's say my contract was not renewed. And the reason is, with soap opera worlds, they try to match you up. You have to have a love interest. And so I kind of went through one, through the next, and they just weren't working out, and within a week after, my agents, of course, said when one door closes, another one opens. And I'm thinking, my life is over when this wasn't renewed. But within 1 week, I tested for and got the famous Teddy Z, which was an Emmy-winning sitcom, just ran for one season because of other political reasons, but with Johnny Cryer and Alex Rocco, and I was suddenly in the sitcom world where, again, I didn't know what I was doing, but thankfully I was surrounded by really beautiful actors, really generous, great direction, great writing. And I learned by throwing me in the middle of the fire how to do comedy, because I'm typically not a funny person.
I would tend to disagree, but
usually good dialogue helps a lot. Right?
Well, did you I mean, just looking back before we close the book on the soap opera world, did you ever have intention to go back to do more of that? Did your career just lead you in a different direction, or did you make a conscious decision to stay away after that?
There's no conscious decision. Actually, I saw a friend of mine. She was, I didn't know that she had gone back to soaps. And I was thinking, oh gosh, would my brain even be able to do that? There was no conscious decision. I was just super blessed with being offered, and my life taking all these leapfrogs into the next, to the next, to the next. And obviously Friends gave me just such a blessing of work that followed just because I was on Friends. Now maybe it's a little bit different, because I was on Friends, and maybe it's not such a sexy thing to offer me a job. I don't know, maybe. But no, it wasn't a conscious decision. I loved every moment of it, and I still have the highest appreciation for those who can do it, because it's hard work. You got to work so hard. It's not like sitcoms where you work 3 weeks on and 1 week off. You're just churning all the time. Yeah,
unbelievable.
It was awesome.
Well, I mean, Friends obviously is the thing, right? I mean, this is still the thing. I mean, you're in Alaska. Do you get recognized for being on Friends in Alaska?
Well, mostly I'm kind of like this in Alaska with hats down to here, So if people can recognize me through my wrinkled eyes, then not yet. No, I've been pretty incognito because there's really not a lot of people here.
Gotcha.
So, quite honestly, but most everywhere else I go. Sometimes it's the voice they hear, and they kind of recognize that voice. Sounds kind of familiar, but yeah, it still has a lot of legs because it's playing in so many places, right?
I didn't count, but I saw a stat that you were on 15 episodes total. Is that correct?
Something like that. I don't count. I know it seems
like you were on 50. It feels like you were ever present, but it was just so nicely spread out.
It was nicely spread out, but also because of reruns, it just seems like it. And because the storyline, they talked about Carol and, Ben's mom and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, sadly we didn't do more, but it was only supposed to be 2 episodes. So I don't, if you remember that, I was originally, auditioning for something else. And then they offered that part to me when I came home from the hospital after delivering my son. So it was, the whole thing was a bonus. The whole thing was a bonus. It was a gift from the get-go, and it was a gift that keeps on giving because it fills my heart so much even now to get still. I mean, I think the last time we talked about me receiving letters from people in different parts of the world where it's not allowed to have a relationship that is lesbian relationship in this case, and so it's given people so much hope that you could. And then I also get these letters, which is really fun. This is something new I don't talk about so much, about people talking about how you can have a post-divorce relationship and to be healthy. And so they look at the Ross and Carol relationship as a healthy post-divorce relationship. And I get letters from people saying, thank you, for giving me that.
Yeah. We've never talked about that. That's another interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's up to that point, I can't really think of that many post-divorce relationships that weren't like combative.
Yeah. Yeah. It was always sweet. We're always trying to work it out, but yeah, I think since the last time I saw you that it was something that came up in my feed most recently, about how in China, my whole storyline has been cut out. Did you know this?
I did not know that. That's always been the case in China?
Well, it's not supposed to be, because that's against the law, of course, to remove a storyline or to edit any bit of a script when you buy something out of syndication, right? But they have completely cut out the whole Susan and Carol storyline.
Wow.
And so I get these messages on Instagram and from people, and they obviously blank out, as much as they can of their name, but it's like, don't worry, because this was big news, I guess, last year, and don't worry, we're all watching it anyway, and we're so grateful. But it's illegal to even have Friends episodes with our characters in it, and it just it's shocking to me that what the impact is, and how it becomes this tender for communication about how we can be more expansive in our love and in our generosity and compassion with everyone and what their orientation is. So I just get this sweet. This year has been a lot of letters from China in particular. Just again, grateful that they have pirated copies of the real show. Pirated real copies, anyway.
That's insane. We're going to go off topic. I'm going to shout out some of these comments that are coming through here as we're talking, even if they're not, this is just somebody piped in and they said, I loved her in It Takes Two as well. So that was a movie that you did with the Olsen twins, right?
I did. I had such a great time with the Olsen twins. I love Mary Kate and Ashley. We had
How old were they at that time?
They were 8.
Oh, okay. So they were kind of fully functioning kids.
They were, but they were kids. Did I ever share with you how sweet it was working with them on the last time we talked? I can't remember. Can I tell you?
You can repeat anything that you think you said before anyway. We're all good.
Well, okay. So this is how sweet it was. And I was, again, a great parenting inspiration for me was how their parents dealt with their whole fame at that time. And the director, Andy Tennant, who's actually gone on to make some huge movies since, he was saying, oh my gosh, I just overheard the girls talking about how much they were getting paid. And I almost did in my role, worried about it, right? Because they had just, made some big deal. And they said, what do you think we're getting paid for this movie? And Ashley said, I don't know, $1.65 last movie per week. So maybe we're getting paid like $1.75 this movie per week. And they were sincere, like, well, that would be good. That would be good. Oh. They were kids. They were just kids, right? And I think they were making like $10 million for that movie. And we were all praying that would last for a long time, because it's so hard. Everything changes when everyone just looks at them through that specter, that prism of financial, about what big stars they were. But they were the sweetest kids. We had a birthday party for my daughter, who their birthday was a couple days apart. And so they came over and they made presents for her, and they went and bought her a little something from Gap. They made their handmade cards. I mean, they were just normal kids that happened to be making really fun movies.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good upbringing. Definitely.
Yeah. Awesome, right?
Unbelievable. Let's go back to Friends a little bit, because, somebody asked a question kind of related to what we're talking about here. And I'm not sure if the timelines exactly match, but they wondered whether the storyline, basically the storyline that you had with the Carol and Susan storyline, the wedding, all that, if that might have paved the way for Will and Grace, not necessarily the concept of Will and Grace, but the network's ability to be a little bit more comfortable with Will and Grace and some of the things that they did on that show. Like, do you think that this was sort of a stepping stone for that show to thrive?
Maybe. I think that there were many steps toward that, and people were definitely shy about it. It certainly was at that point when we did our wedding episode. It was at that point, it was the highest rated episode of television, even though we were blacked out in a couple of affiliates. Or for sitcoms, I think that's what it was. And so, yes, it gave some bit of strength to that. I couldn't speak because I don't know the creators of Will and Grace. I know that Roseanne also had a storyline much like this too. I always said, oh yeah, we're the first, gay wedding on television. Like, no, actually Roseanne did it. I'd been saying that for years, and someone finally, Jane, do your research. Like, I had been told that, but I was the first lesbian wedding. But Yeah, perhaps. I didn't that Will and Grace do an amazing job. I love that show.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's just crazy to think. I mean, it's crazy to think of how long ago Friends was in general and
Yeah.
how different things were back then, because it all still feels like we're kind of living in that time because Friends has never truly gone away. So,
In some places, I know up here it's playing 3 times a day.
mm,
So yeah, I mean, obviously you can get it anywhere, but even on a network television, it's still playing quite a bit.
yeah,
Yeah, I think every step we can get for us to learn to live one another with greater levity and greater love for one another, whatever, as long as we're being good people, it's a good day. I wish that we were further along in society. I certainly didn't sign up to do that show for any big political reason. I did it for love and that I was, pregnant brain. But I also love this. I love the script so much. I
yeah,
was so excited, and people always ask, "Well, was that a big decision for you?" And like, no, no, no. I was thrilled to be. Yes, of course, I was tired from having the baby, but I was thrilled to be a part of this, and didn't even think for a second about the gay character being ever an obstacle in my life. It's just like didn't even think about that. I just thought I'm playing for love. What's the big deal, right?
yeah.
Just I what a great gift that has been for me.
Yeah.
Really, yeah,
The influence continues. And the
yeah.
love for the show, of course, continues. Here's something we never talked about. Because you had some experience in sitcoms at this point. By the time you got to Friends, you had done Herman's Head, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Now you come to Friends and you get to work. I assume you got to work with James Burrows, right?
Oh yeah, he directed my first episode too.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I
Now,
worked with him. I'd worked with him on Cheers. I did a guest on Cheers also.
mm,
Um, oh man.
what was that like? Because I think now we're starting to look back and appreciate, and more of us are learning more and more about the influence and the genius that a guy like James Burrows, who is the sitcom director of all sitcom directors, and what he did and the magic that he created in so many of the shows that we look back on. What was it like being in that environment with him at the helm versus the experiences that you had before Burrows?
That is a great question. He is such a huge influence on so many of the best sitcoms for sure, and the characters. And he gave me a juicy a piece of advice. Um, I, you know, I was slightly terrified of him because he's so good and so smart, but he doesn't do anything to make you feel that way. He's such an awesome being, an awesome presence.
Yeah.
But there was a comment he said that made it uncomfortable for me. So here's I'm going to give you some context. So on Herman's Head, I remember I can talk about this person as executive producer who's no longer with us, who had said Jane, 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 because every sitcom has a different style. So in the famous Teddy Z, Hugh Wilson, the creator, liked Preston Sturges, so he liked faster, funnier. So it was like the rhythm was, he just wanted to go fast, 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 fast. Okay. When Herman's Head, this was my note from one of our executive producers. He said, lean into it like an old Jewish man. And I was like, oh man, I'm not old and I'm not Jewish. And I'm not a man. How the heck am I going to make that work? But there was like a style, right? So lean into the jokes. But
Yeah.
with Jimmy Burrows, it was something else. So when I first got there, I said, okay, so how do you want me to play her? Because obviously I didn't audition for her, right? She was just
Right.
given to me. And I was replacing Anita Barone. And I wanted to know, like, do you want me to try to hit what she did? Because I didn't see anything that she had done. And they said, no, just play you. Let's see what we go. So I just said, I want to play it for love. So that's how we're going to go. But then Jimmy Burrows said to me, he said, when you walk into a set and when you're trying to establish your character, he said, I'll give you an example. Is it Jerry Burns or Jerry Burns from Dear John? Do you remember him? He was that.
I've been watching the show recently, very randomly, but I can't remember.
He's that
The,
slimy guy on Dear
yeah,
John. And
amazing. One of the
yes,
greatest unsung heroes in with characters in all of sitcoms.
yeah. And
It's-
someday I hope to meet him and tell him this in person. I think I might have texted him once on Facebook or something, just like, I got this note from Jimmy Burrows about you. And he said that he walked in for the Dear John audition, and he walked in, he took a stick of gum and he curled it on his tongue like that. And that was the character. And he said, Sibbett, find something in a room, make it your own, make it something special. Like, what's your tick? You know, what's the thing you do? And if you look at even, you know, the Friends characters, all of them have something. Did I ever do that with Carol? Probably not. But that's the kind of level of excellence that he asked for. And he was great. He was great. You know the famous story about him taking the 6 main characters of Friends before the pilot to Las Vegas, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Not just like stuff like that. When you make and encourage, and obviously Courtney was instrumental, and Jen, I mean, all of them were instrumental in bringing that synthesis of magnificence together. But to like let them play, let them be friends, let them find their characters, and then that commitment that no matter what, they were in it until they got the joke, until they made it right, until it was great for everyone. There was no star, BS. It was like, let's make this show as funny as we can. So, you'd go like, everyone go into Jen's room, or everyone go into, David's room. Let's work this out. Or you talk to the producers. This was so different for me too. And I know I shared this with you before. Coming from Herman's head, where the line was drawn between actors and producers in Friends, it was like, so what do you think of that dialogue? Does that work for you? Can we write something better for you? The collaborative atmosphere, starting with Marta Kaufman and David Crane, was so magnificent. That's why I say again, highest benchmark in my career in terms of collaboration, because you are empowering good people who really are there for the right reasons, not just to be a star, to make a good show. I don't know. It's just great. That's a lot of words.
we like the more words, the better here. It's all good. We got a question that I actually had never even thought about before, but this is pretty cool because when we think about your time on Friends, the majority of time that you spent on camera was opposite David Schwimmer.
Yeah.
Or,
Jessica Hecht, my wife.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. You didn't get to play a lot with the others very much. You were in the same room with them here and there, but you didn't really get to a little bit. Yeah. But is there anybody in the main cast or otherwise who was on Friends during the time you were there that you might have had an opportunity, if you could go back, it would have been cool to have more one-on-one with, to develop more of a chemistry with?
Oh my gosh. Well, for various reasons, right? I mean, I would have loved to have. No, I could not pick just one. I couldn't just pick one.
Well, not even who you prefer, but who do you think would have like a really cool, entertaining dynamic? I mean, I think that's one thing that also kind of speaks to the writing in Friends and the character development, is that even among the 6, like you take them into pairs. Like there's all these different combinations of pairs, and they all kind of have their own personality, like each type of each combination. So
what would have been, so the question is, what would have been my choice to try to explore like my character a little bit more?
Yeah, like who do you think would have been fun and produce something that would have been kind of different and unique and entertaining and
completely different and unique? I mean, we had a little interaction. Matty Perry, I love him from my life before with Herman's Head, because he was really good friends with Hank Azaria, so he hang out back then. There was this tiny little moment, even in the one with the breast milk episode, where because I actually whipped out my boob to nurse because I had a nursing baby, so I was trying to do it with the twins. And there's this, if someone goes back and looks at that shot, you'll see his like his shock actually seeing that in front of an audience of 200 people, and him looking away. So that would have been fun just because I personally adore. I know, gosh, dynamic wise, what could I have had more fun with? I would love to work more with Lisa. I would have loved to. I mean, all of them. Court. Come on, that's an unfair question because I literally love them all so much. And Jen is, Jen's an old friend from before. Also, as I said, I would have loved to had more time with her. I saw her recently, and it just made me so happy. So happy to to have those connections. Oh gosh. I'm not answering that question very well because I really can't. It's hard for me to choose.
It's okay. It's okay. It's still an answer. It's still um and you know, I want to ask you, and I know this isn't really about you, but this has been so prevalent over the last year or so. You know, you mentioned Matthew Perry. He put his book out.
Yeah.
He's been very forthright in wanting to put his story out into the world and talk about it and have people kind of understand everything he's gone through over the years. I mean, have you gotten a chance to see the book, or were you like kind of well, like, what are your memories, I guess, of being around him during, or were you around him during what he would kind of look back at his most challenging years?
Those were the years that I was gone. I mean,
Okay.
that's, that really was the chunk. There was, I had no recollection of any of that. I I know that Maddie, of course, certainly I've seen the book. I've not read it all. I've skimmed it a little bit. I've been crazy busy most recently since it's come out,
Mm.
but I do want to read it, and I just care for him so deeply. And what an incredible journey for him to put himself out there like that, and to really be an advocate for others that are going through it, because the heartache is real. And when you're in pain, and when you have an addiction like that, it is no fault of his that that happened. And he's just been a champ. And I can't love him more than I do right now for trying so hard to make things right. You know, he's just it's just solid. I just adore him. He's a good man. So yeah, I didn't have cognizance of that. I I know that I'd shared this before, that I had a story about how I'd felt like he was definitely part of saving my life during my deepest, darkest depression, where I didn't want to get out of bed for a week after I lost my baby, and my first one. And he was so instrumental in that. So forever I'll be thankful. And I was kind of whenever I'd see him, I I didn't actually throw my arms around him and, confess my undying love, but that's what I feel like whenever I would see him, is that how much I appreciated him. And I don't know, because because I was trying to deal with my own pain,
Yeah.
maybe if he was dealing with it at that point, I wouldn't have seen it, because I would come in and go out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But bless him, he's doing the hard work right now.
Yeah, thank goodness. And he's, you know, he's doing well, and he's helping others with his stories too. So
I'm
that,
proud of him.
yeah, it's pretty amazing. Um I want to put your creative hat on for a moment. Put
All
your
right.
mind to work. Now, I believe in the past we've talked about, because it was much more recent then, about the Friends reunion special that did happen on HBO Max.
Yes.
But the other side of that is that over the years, I guess, kind of leading up to that, there were a lot of people who were wanting and requesting and expecting an actual Friends reunion, whether it be, you know, a special or a movie or like a reboot of the TV show, etc. Um, I'd like to get your input as the creative mind that you are, from your perspective. If that were to happen this year, 2023, we're going to revisit these characters, what now, 20, however many years later it is since we last left them. So 2 decades, whatever, give or take a couple of years. Where do you think you would be? Because you got to be a part of this.
Thank you.
Where I mean, so we're aging everybody up, but where do you think you are? Where do you think Ross and Rachel, like, where do you think we pick up with these characters, especially your neck of the woods?
That question was thrown out to Jessica and I when we went to London, and she had said that we would be in London, and so I have to go with what my wife said, of course, because I'm a good wife. So we would be in London, and maybe if we were to pick up in all of that world, that everyone's coming back together, because there's some big life change coming. Whether it's someone's divorcing, or because at this age right now, let's see, because my own son is now 28 years old, the one that was born, you know, 2 days before I started work.
Right.
That would mean the other ones are. So maybe it's the first Oh, that's the news and no one knows. There's the first grandchild coming through, for somebody, right?
Whoa,
That would
that
be
would be
because I am the first grandmother of the group. I have a brand new grandbaby.
what? Congratulations,
Thank you.
congratulations. How do you feel? You seem very, very okay with that. Like to me,
Ah, kidding? Oh yeah, no, look, I everybody can Google how old I am. I'm 60 years old. I definitely look at I am thrilled to have this perfect, healthy, beautiful granddaughter. And I couldn't be more excited. And I shared one teeny tiny picture on social media because I want to really protect their sweet little family. But she's amazing and I love her so much. And I think that would be something really sweet and tender for her. I mean, everyone would have to jump into the fact that they could be old enough to be a grandparent. That's a pretty crazy thing because obviously all of our friends look amazing. I
yeah,
think I'm definitely the one that looks like she's about 20 years older than everyone, but everyone else is beautiful and staying in their perfect glow of their luminous lives.
there. Look, your modesty is overwhelming and emanating through the screen. But yeah, I think that would actually be that makes a whole lot of sense. That would be really cool that somebody ended up in London because, how many times did we tease during this show somebody going to London, or Rachel going to France or,
Yeah,
there was
right,
always teases of them moving away, but it was always no, because, we need to be together in New York around the kids and around each other.
right.
But yeah, you're right. I guess Ben would be like 28 or something like
He would
that.
be 28 years old because I mean I guess, yeah, because I was pregnant that time. So yeah, he would be 28, 27, somewhere in there because of my own son. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, and then amazing.
A far cry from the from enjoying the what was it, the Hanukkah armadillo?
Yeah, right. I love that so much. Yes.
Good lord. Okay, listen, I have a question for you. This is something else that I believe I'd never seen, read, heard, or knew before. How deep were you in consideration to play Deborah Barone on Everybody Loves Raymond?
Oh, I signed the contract.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
untold.
I
I mean, I'm sure you've told the story before. I've never heard it.
Yeah, it was, it was one of those situations where, again, I think I had just done Friends, right? Or was that just coming off Herman's Head? And maybe I just started Friends.
No,
Anyway,
it would have been after Friends.
yeah, so it was
Yeah.
like after the first season or second season, and I signed the contract, and it was a really good contract for me. It was a big jump for
Mm.
me financially to take that contract, and I was so excited, and I looked at the script, I'm like, "I'm not necessarily this person, but perhaps they're gonna change it." And then they said, "You need to go in and have a meeting with Ray." So I go in and we're chatting and there's a couple other people in the room. And he said, "Well, do you want to read?" I'm like, uh, just to see how the script is working. He goes, "No, no, do
Mhm.
you want to audition?" I'm like, uh, hey, you know, has anyone told you that they actually gave me the part?
Mm.
And he was a producer on the show, right? He was one of the executive producers at that point.
Yeah.
He's like, no. I said, "Well, here, let me
Awkward.
let me help you out. I would love to play this part. I would love to work with you. I think the show is gonna be fantastic, and this is your show, and so if you have someone else in mind that you would prefer, then I will bow out graciously." I just said that right straight to him,
Wow.
I said, "I can't even imagine for you to be in that spot where I'm actually telling you that I have a signed contract."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, okay, thanks. Thanks. I really appreciate it." And he was very kind and he shook my hand and I left. And my manager was not happy about this because, normally that would be a contestable, right? That I should get the part and
Right.
or they should give me some financial, benefits for signing a contract and not but for me, I just went karmically. I mean, I'm not even into karma, but I just think, you don't want to do something like that. My God, can you imagine having an actress pushed on you for a show that you created? It makes sense. I mean, and look, I will say straight up that the head of the network at the time, and the head of the studio at the time, they were people that I worked with before and people I love, and one of them actually I had gone to school with. And it wasn't a favor. It was actually because I had earned the part, but they just hadn't told Ray yet. And so I don't know who missed that jump, but I didn't want to get anybody in trouble for offering me such a beautiful contract. I was sad that I didn't get to work on that show, but I also, why would I want to fight? This is not good things. It's okay. It's all right. It'll all work out. I'm still kind of waiting for that to work out. I haven't gotten that contract since, but but I would imagine that Patricia Heaton, I mean, she's had a glorious career and she's won many Emmys, I think, hasn't she? And I would imagine for her to hear the story, she's probably like, who's Sibbett? But I don't know. I don't know her. I've never met her, and I'm so happy for her. But even still, she earned that part. I was just given it. It was just a different situation.
I mean, she embodies who that character was because that's who we saw create that character from day one. What do you look back and do you see, because you even said, like, looking at the script, it wasn't necessarily you.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily.
So did you feel like,
but that is acting, right? But it's not like I'm a girl from New York, right? I could do it.
Right.
But that's not like, I do what I want to say. There's pockets that Jane has played, right? I played the evil one, the bitch, this kind of stuff. Carol's the closest thing to me, except for the sexuality part, right? That she's just, happy mom. She's all about love. That's kind of Jane. Yeah. But this was not, and it's okay. I've played many characters. And I've played, killers and all sorts of things. That's our job. But I knew that just by his crestfallen face, that it wasn't a good idea for me to interject. Like, I've got a contract, dude, because that's just, I didn't. I didn't prepare for this audition because it wasn't an audition. It was just to say hello and we're gonna get to work next week.
Just to play devil's advocate, I mean, Ray Romano, he's got a pretty famous face. It's pretty naturally crestfallen. I mean, right. I hope you didn't just misread the room and throw out that contract.
Oh, Jerry, now my brain's going to be spinning on that one. Like, oh, maybe I blew it. Maybe he really did like me and he just looks like that.
That was his smile. I'm just.
Oh, yeah, no. It's a funny story, huh?
It is. I think, things work out the way, I'm sure.
Life.
Yeah, exactly.
Life. I can't imagine my life being different. I mean, yes, I'd like to imagine my life being different in many ways, but that's all good.
Well, look, we've had such a good time. Thank you to everyone. We've got comments kind of popping in, just saying how much they're enjoying the conversation. This is fun. We're loving the stories, et cetera, et cetera. And we've gotten through a lot of the topics you guys talked about. I want to do one last exercise with you before we let you go.
All right.
This is like my most favorite thing to do on this show is, we've talked about the highlights, but I want to read off just some of the other things that you did and appeared on during the 90s, and sort of as rapid fire or not rapid fire as you want. Just first thing that comes to mind, the memories, the experience, like what was it like? And the first one actually happened in 1989, but it's such a 90s show that I have to mention it because everybody who was anybody in the 90s appeared on this show at some point, it seems. 21 Jump Street.
That was my first screen kiss with Johnny Depp.
Wow.
Yummy. It was such an awesome time. I've got lots of stories about that shoot. We had so much fun.
Yeah. How old this is like way early on for you. You started, because your resume kind of starts in 85-ish or so. This was 89. So was this the first kind of, like, I guess you'd call it kind of a cop drama, but was this the hottest show you'd been on at this point? Because 21 Jump Street was like really hot at the time that it was a big deal.
I did Scarecrow and Mrs. King before that, which
different
was
age group, different.
Yeah. Exactly right. Sorry. I know. No, it probably was at that time. I felt like I was working so much. I think that was, you said 89.
Yes.
It was
Mhm.
after my soap.
Okay.
I did a couple TV movies at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, we talked about the famous Teddy Z. This was a one season. It's one of those shows that people talk about in today's climate how TV shows often and streaming shows don't really get a chance, even if people seem to like it. They get critical acclaim. Like if you don't get a decent audience, you're done. But this was happening way back then. The famous Teddy Z, a
Right.
one season wonder. Uh, you mentioned political reasons.
Yes.
Just kind of standard Hollywood TV stuff, or was
Yeah.
there?
It was the hottest show in Hollywood, that so hot that all the agents came. It was like their thing to do on a Friday night. We shot on Friday nights.
Mhm.
It was so popular. Everybody loved it. Even Hugh Wilson basically said, "I'm going to sweep the stage of all the agents. I want real laughter," because the laughs were so huge, because it was all about life
Yeah.
in Hollywood. And Alex Pro was just so damn funny. Johnny Cryer, so damn funny. And at that time, the head of Columbia Television, we were a Columbia Television show, was I guess Jeff Sagansky, and he was actually being asked to be the head of CBS. I guess moved over, and so they wouldn't release him from the contract. So he systematically, when he became the head of CBS, which was we were a CBS show,
Mm.
canceled everything on Columbia, just like
Holy moly!
because they were penalizing him so deeply for his contract. So it was devastating because we were a hot show. Our number, we were in the high ratings, and we were all just taken off, and we're having a blast doing it. And it was just a political move, and that's what the big boys can do.
Do
That's what
you
they
uh,
can do.
do you ever get used to the fact that sometimes things just go away for reasons that have nothing to do with a show's popularity or quality or anything that should kind of matter? Sometimes just somebody makes a decision or somebody gets fired or somebody gets hired and suddenly whoosh, you're done.
What was the first part of that question? What do I feel about it?
I mean, do you ever get used to that? Because that seems
Oh.
like a hard thing to get jaded about.
You do your very best. I mean, this is what I say to every young actor. Even I say this to my son, who's a young actor. I say, you have to be a duck and let it just roll off your back, because
Mm,
you just waste so much time with that stuff. If there's 300 auditions you don't get for that one great part, and
yeah.
you just have, like, okay, this is what we do. Yeah, you can get a whole roll of success, and then you can, like, boom, 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 for years not work. And so same thing with this. Shows get canceled, things get picked up that shouldn't. Even with my own career, I maintain that my girlfriends from college, UCLA Continuum, were far more talented than and I got the lucky break. And I don't know why. I was blessed with this great career, but my friends I still, to this day, I think they're far more talented than I. I'm just like, I don't know why I got some success, but thank goodness. But I feel badly for them. It's the same thing with the shows. There are
Yeah.
so many great shows out there. I wish that they would make a network that was just of pilots that didn't go, just a
Mm.
whole, like, whole year of all the awesome opportunities. I mean, they could do the same thing with movies that didn't get picked up, but if they just did like the one episode, I think
Yeah.
people would find there were a lot of great content out there that, for whatever reason, for whatever dynamic, they decided just not to go forward.
That'd be so cool. Like almost like a bunch of one act plays, obviously different, but the same sort of idea of just
Right. And it's already there. They all live. I mean, I did a pilot like that too. Many pilots that didn't go, they didn't get picked up.
yeah.
Um, just
I,
part of it.
I want to ask you about one. This is something I'd never heard of before. 1995, a show called If Not For You.
Oh,
Um,
with Hank
yeah, with
and Reno.
Hank Azaria, Elizabeth McGovern,
Oh yeah,
Deborah Jo Rupp, who is the mom on that 70s show, on that 90s show, amazing.
and Elizabeth McGovern has been doing Downton. Is it Downton Abbey that she's? Yeah,
Yeah, I
right?
mean she's been doing stuff since the 80s, but yeah, she was
Yeah,
on Downton Abbey. Peter Krause,
love
from
huge.
yeah,
It's Bender
and yourself, and this show.
and Reno Wilson, who's doing what is the Mad. I want to say Mad Girls. What's what? Oh, dang it! I'm so bad at this. He's like does a ton of stuff. He was on Mike and Molly. You don't remember Reno Wilson on that show? He did Mike and Molly, and he did what is it? Is it Bad Girls? Mad Girls? The ones with the oh well. Anyway,
Yeah, I know which.
everybody on that show hit.
Yeah,
Everybody on that show hit.
And this show lasts 4 episodes on the air. 7 in total I saw listed, but only 4 made it to the air before being canceled. What happened? Like, what happens to make that reality?
That I don't know about for that one.
Yeah.
I literally don't know. Really, because it had all the markings of success. It was funny. It was a great cast. I also replaced, again, this was my second time replacing Anita Barone.
Oh, wow. Really?
Isn't that crazy? It's kind of like my thing. Like, we don't even look alike. Isn't
Ouch.
it weird?
She,
I know.
how does she feel about this?
I only got to meet her, you know. I met her at my daughter's high school fireworks show. And she came up and, you know, was really perky and lovely. And she goes, "You don't know who I am, do you?" Like, no, because I'm Anita Barone. Like, what? Oh, how do you feel about me? You know, like, should I be careful? She's like, no. Life, you know, happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a lesson to learn, though, because you have had this career that's so enduring, and it's almost like the stock market, where if you wait it out long enough, you're gonna have your ups, you're gonna have your downs, and things are gonna be okay. I mean, we just talked about how you were essentially replaced for Everybody Loves Raymond, and then, you know, on the flip side, like, you were in the opposite position.
I wasn't replaced on that. I was sit down.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
like Anita was actually, yeah, she was replaced. Yes, it's true.
In the grand scheme of things, you know, you've been on the top and the bottom of those very broad scenarios. Yes. And it's got to suck down here, and it's got to be better up here. But if you're around long enough and you keep putting in the work, you're just going to find yourself probably in both places at some point. You're kind of living proof of that.
That's what we certainly try to do. I definitely hope that I remember looking around, and I haven't been in the audition room obviously since the pandemic world. I mean, use Zoom stuff, but I used to call it the great cocktail party, and I'd look around at everybody, and, you know, as we were getting into the motherhood years, to see who was still standing. We're like, wow, we're still here. We're still doing this. Can you believe it? We're still here. And it was always so much fun for me that I loved to see who was still here. And then I moved away, and then, you know, life changed, and I'm not still there. Now, you know, now we're in Zoom rooms and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's an interesting career for sure, the Hollywood.
And somehow it led you to a glacier in Alaska. And that's...
Well, I'm up here doing my dancing hands too. So I'm working on my book and all of that. So there's, this career has led me to the most magnificent places, and that joy of adventure and all the great, like au pair took me to Budapest. I've had the most magical life with wonderful, talented, funny, smart people that keep me inspired. And when I'm not out in the world or interacting with wonderful people like you, you know, life feels very small. And I like to, for a girl who was so shy for so much of her life, this is like the greatest adventure ever, to live this life as I am right now. I'm so blessed.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing everything. I can't believe we've just like breezed through an hour. So thank you. I know that it's probably not ideal for you to, you know, break up your time out there in the Alaskan wilderness to come in here and do the show. So, but thank you for coming in from the cold for a little while.
I needed a break, you know. Yeah, it was awesome. I'm so grateful. It's really lovely to connect with you all the way from up here. I can send you all the Alaskan magic.
Absolutely. Oh, we're all here to receive it. And thank you guys. Hopefully a ton of you have joined us, and you know, I see by the comments there's a lot of you out there. So thank you all for our first time. We're going to keep on improving, keep on doing new and more of these live streams, and do a lot more here on the Facebook channel specifically. So if you have not liked, subscribed, shared, etc., please do that here on Facebook, and also please do it on our YouTube channel. You can see the address right under my name on the screen as we speak. So subscribe to get all our new episodes. We got a lot coming up this week alone, and a lot more in the next couple weeks. So thank you all. Thank you,
Please
Jane.
follow me on Instagram for all the adventures that are coming too.
Absolutely. Jane said, just straight up your name on Instagram, right?
Yes, because I don't have an official blue dot yet for some crazy reason. No matter what, they don't seem to make it official. I know.
It's
I
her.
know.
It's her.
It's her. Yeah. Anyway, yes. Thank you so much, Jerry. I so appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you guys. We'll see you next time right here on 90s to Now.